We are finding Jesus at the heart of the Gospels, finding Jesus at the heart of His love, learning about the things that He said, finding His love and guidance for living, seeking the gospel and following His ways. We are finding Jesus at the heart of the Gospels, finding Jesus at the heart of His love. There is common ground we found in the four Gospels and beyond, but anchored in His teachings and wisdom. Seeking Jesus, we are searching His word. Seeking Jesus, we are resting in His grace. We are the Good News Fellowship, growing and following His love. We are the Good News Fellowship, seeking Jesus' guidance from His word. We find peace on this common ground, allowing space to grow. We find peace on this holy ground. Sacred ways are felt and unity is sound. Peace in the knowing that this good news can be found. Jesus at the center of our hearts, 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 Jesus at the center of our hearts. Welcome to our Good News Fellowship. Welcome to our Good News Fellowship.
Hello, we're here. There's bugs in the system, Danny. This happened yesterday with my chat with Andy. I don't know what's going on, but we're here. It worked. And it's so good to have you here on the program today. It's great to have everybody that is watching. And you're all welcome. There's a good number of people turning up today, Danny. So people are finally getting the idea of our whole new YouTube channel dedicated to Good News Fellowship, and can have access to all the resources that are there. And yes, so welcome everybody. Keep the chat going. Welcome, Danny. And today we're going to be looking at what is Good News Fellowship. Where did we come from? What are we doing? Where are we going? And in chatting to Danny and a few others about this, I was aware that, let's have a conversation about it. And I've also got some Bible texts that I want to share so we can keep our gospel component in play.
I have some of those too.
Awesome. I love it. And so, welcome everybody. Good to see you all here. And as we stand on common ground, as always, we love to start with Malcolm Clark's beautiful version of Break Bread Together. And then I might invite Danny to offer up a prayer if she's okay with that. And we will get into today's discussion, of course, of which, if you're watching today or later, I would love your thoughts in the comments. Speak freely and share your thoughts. But yes, let us break bread together, our theme song. Beautiful, beautiful. Let me just find my way back to where we were. And yeah, those who have watched the show know that I'm a bit of a fan of cafe culture. And so whenever I hear that, I imagine sitting around with a nice view at a cafe, chatting to friends, breaking bread together, having good conversations. So before I hand it over to Danny to ask me some poignant questions, some thoughts, sharing ideas, I thought I'd just share briefly where the notion of Good News Fellowship came from. It's just so you can see the thread of where it's been and how it got to here today. And I was going to hand it over to you, Danny, first, just to offer a word of prayer, and then we'll do that.
That'd be great, thanks. Abba, Father, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for people like Peter that have the gift of connecting people. And I want to say thank you, Lord, for all the people that desire to be connected, that are seeking connection. I want to say thank you for all the people from all around the world that are here, seeking you in connection with people that follow you. I just ask that you'll be especially close to them all and that you'll gather them up like in a big warm hug, and that they'll be excited about what Peter has to share. Thank you, Father, for being there. Amen.
Thank you, Danny. Yes, so I guess the journey around my interest and joy of community building began when I started my music shop, which I ran in Cooranbong, small little town here in Australia, New South Wales, and it ran for 21 years. And I enjoyed most of all, not necessarily the selling of instruments or the music component. That was really important and was our common ground, I guess, people gathering around their love of music and musical instruments. I enjoyed the fellowship of people coming into the shop and chatting. And all day, every day, there was always 2 or 3 people around my counter, sitting on chairs and just chatting. And, I had a nice little building, nice little shop, and, I when I eventually sold the shop, that's what I missed the most. In fact, Danny, you'll laugh at this idea of the cafe culture. I bought 5 cafe tables, 10 chairs, and there was a little courtyard if you've ever been to Coorumba and seen the location. And I just put the tables in the courtyard and the chairs. Every morning, out they'd go. Why? Well, people would come from the local takeaway and the cafe, and they'd see this nice little spot with a little garden and my music shop, and I'd have a speaker playing music, and they would just gather. And I'd sometimes go out and chat, never as an idea to oh, now come into the shop. I loved the conversations, and I would go out and I'd take a drink, and we'd just sit in the sun and have good conversation. So that's the seed of it. And as I said, I had that for 21 years, and I sold that maybe 10 or 12 years ago. So it's always been an interest of mine. When about 10 years ago, when I left the particular denomination that I was in, that a lot of people here know about and were as well or are, I um, um, one of the reasons for doing so was, as I've said many times, being an older dad with younger daughters, and I felt like I can't really put my name to this anymore. And so immediately I started a group on Facebook called Now. And that group is still there, though very inactive, was designed to create a discussion around women's ordination in the Adventist Church. They had a big no vote where it was to be banned around the world. And I couldn't go along with that, couldn't put my name to a denomination that was making that decision, though I am aware that if people choose to interpret the Bible that way, that's fine. It just wasn't my decision. And so this group now is really the seed that eventually became Good News Fellowship, and it wound its way through some different paths before we got here. But now was about this idea of if we're not going to do it, when? If if you aren't going to do it, then who? And my theory was we've got to do it now. So this must have been 9 years ago, I guess. And my thought was, come on, guys, do it now. So again, we had this common ground. And again, I noticed that there were people in that group that just gravitated to enjoying talking about the gospel, talking about the teachings of Jesus. And that group then became Voice Life Fellowship. And also a group still going on Facebook as well. But what I noticed with that group, because that group was about people having a voice, that they would have life more abundant, that we were a fellowship, and we were gathering again around the common ground, quite specifically in that group around the 4 Gospels. Of course, I didn't mind people springboarding into other things, but I wanted them to enjoy the common ground where we could discuss diverse ideas, but agree upon the teachings of Jesus from the 4 Gospels as being central to the combining of the group. But that group then began to have people coming from Now and from my SDAQ&A, more robust, diverse conversations with Adventists, former, current, every kind of Adventist on the spectrum. And I noticed that people began funneling's not the right word, but coming out of these bigger groups, Voice, SDAQ&A, and Now into Voice Life Fellowship. But what I noticed with Voice Life Fellowship is there was still quite an obvious desire from the members to have somehow interpret Adventism in a good gospel light. And so within that group, a lot of people were speaking still with the filters of Ellen White, the Adventist message, that kind of thing. Even when they weren't trying, it came through. And so I allowed that group to continue on, but I yearned for a gathering hole, a watering hole, where people could just talk about the gospel unfiltered. And what are we at now? This is number 58. So it means we've been going for over a year now. And what we do now is provide content that is gospel based, still around the common ground of Jesus' teachings from the four gospels, but allowing a wider opportunity for people to explore and share what the gospel is from the whole context of the Bible, the Gospels, Old and New Covenants. And wow, and you'll agree, Danny, you've been one of the presenters. What an incredible number of amazing resources have we built up. And incredible, thought-provoking. And so that's a little bit of a background of where we are, how we got here, what we're doing. And I've occasionally in the last few weeks, even over the year, talked about where do we go? Is it just online? And I've shared some thoughts. And because things are quite busy, Danny has taken over the role of helping to book the presenters each week. We've got a healthy group of maybe 15 or 16 presenters, and she does a lot of hard work. Thank you, Danny, ensuring that I get a call on the Wednesday or Thursday. This is who's on this week. And so it's a real pleasure to kind of just relax a bit more and just listen and facilitate the space. I'm not someone that has any claims to make or beliefs to push. I just enjoy the content, and my own personal faith is very, very simple at the moment. I'm still trying to get my head around some of the bigger concepts, and I'm enjoying that I can just gather with people that are like-minded on a similar journey, enjoy the gospel, and have a willingness to learn and listen. And part of what we're going to do now, as Danny asks me some questions, is based on my random. People who know me know I'm not very organized, although I seem to produce lots of content. I run 5 businesses. I have a father of 2 gorgeous girls, 11 and 13. I lead a very full life, but it's not a rat race at all. I tend to run my businesses from a ground up kind of process where I just allow people to kind of run things, and I just kind of keep the edges from fraying. And it's worked. Here I am, honestly, close to retirement, really. I've got probably 2 or 3 years left in me. I'm winding down in many ways. Thus, I enjoy this program each week. It's probably my absolute favorite time of the week, gathering together with you guys, having these interesting conversations. And a part of what I've said is, how can I maybe move this out into the real world a little bit so I can enjoy the cafe culture, the small group ideas. And what I've noticed is that people have said to me various things, and I've thought, oh, I haven't really explained myself well on that then. And Danny said to me a few things this week, and I thought, look, wouldn't this be great to have a conversation with you guys watching, contributing, and we'll have a bit of a look at the comments, and any questions coming through, please ask. Carrie has just written, is this a new time slot? Yes, because of daylight saving, there has been a little bit of a change. It'll either be this time slot, which is Pacific time 5:30 or 6:30. If you guys prefer this slot of the 5:30 Pacific time, I'm happy to keep it at that. The SDAQ&A program will most likely keep at the 6:30 Pacific time, but we'll see how we go with that as well. So there's a few things to tweak. But Danny, I'm going to hand it over to you and to ask some questions. Just before I do that, I just wanted to read Matthew 18:20. For where two or three are gathered in my name, there I am with them. And that notion of two or three gathered is kind of perfect for me. So when we chat about expanding, what does that mean? Over to you, Danny.
Yay! Oh, well. I've just got to say, I totally agree with you. There is some amazing, I guess I don't really want to call them sermons. I don't like that word. There's some bad connotations for me.
Yeah.
But there are some, I don't know what else to call them. What's a better word?
I usually say presentations.
Presentations. There are some amazing presentations back and through all of the good news ones that you've done. You've got some amazing speakers there on some fabulous topics. And I know earlier this year when I had specific questions, I went back and watched some of them, especially some of Frank Marandino's ones. And I think it was one that Emma did. I went back and watched them 2 or 3 times, took notes, wrote it all out. And I found that if I took notes as well, it helped solidify everything in my head. And I find that I hear these amazing messages, and writing notes helps me remember what I've heard. But for me, actually being able to talk to someone after the presentation would help me with the application of some of the things that I hear a whole lot more. So when you started talking last week, couple of weeks back with Emma about you had a vision for Good News Fellowship, you started talking and I got super excited. And then, of course, it was only something you tacked on at the end of Emma's lovely talk. And you can be really hard to get hold of. So my brain, doing what it does, picked out a few words, went into overdrive, and it came up with all these questions. And for everybody listening, when I couldn't get hold of Peter easily with enough time to answer my questions, he thought, maybe I'm not the only person with questions. We could just do it and have a conversation while you all listen. So I'm going to apologize straight up. I'm really sorry if I took some of your words out of context. Any of the questions I ask that sound a little odd come from me and the glasses that I see the world through. Some of the things that stood out to me that I remember were just odd words. And I know a word's not a whole sentence, so that's why I'm here to ask you about them. But I remember hearing words like, if there's not enough room in someone's house for a meeting, you could get a hall. And all of a sudden, because of where I've come from, and because I've come from some of those big tent evangelistic things, when someone says the word hall, I start seeing metal poles with big flags, Good News Fellowship printed on them, hundreds of people rocking up, and I'll talk a bit more at the end of this time, but I'm more a smaller group type of person. And then, of course, my brain went crazy and I started thinking, oh no, is Pete trying to start a new religion? Is he going to register this and call it Good News Fellowship? No, I didn't really think you'd register it, but all these questions came up. So I know that's quite a few at once. Because I come from, in my professional world as well, Peter, the word facilitator, where I come from, a facilitator is someone with a really important, really big job. And if someone's facilitating a group, because of course I'm thinking professional groups, which is, I'm guessing, different to you. I'm thinking facilitation comes with training and special skills and all sorts of things. So when I start hearing all those words mixed together, my brain starts wondering about things. So what were you thinking?
I'm just taking notes. I'll
Sorry to
address
give them all to you.
I'll address. No, I love it, honestly. And so, yes, I'm notoriously hard to get in touch with. I have a phobia with phones. I can't talk on the phone. I remember just when I'd started my business at the music shop, which now has to be 35 years ago, and pre-mobile phones, I would hire a guy every Monday just to return phone calls and just to do the phone orders with the companies and stuff. So when mobile phones came out and I could text, a whole new world opened up. I organized a whole tour of New Zealand once with music from Wellington, I think, or maybe even Christchurch. Anyway, right up to Auckland, all via text message. And of course, various promoters hated that. You know, it's never been a big deal for me. It's just something how I've done. And there are things I can analyze psychologically that cause that phobia, but it's just who I am, how I live. And I wasn't expecting in the last couple of years for the various YouTube channels that I've been involved with to have kind of reached a point of such engagement that I can't really keep up with connecting with people. But yeah, I'm going to try and get a bit better at that. But one of the things I like about today is this is that kind of catch up. But people are watching. And we even discussed this week, hey, instead of really unpacking the questions behind the scenes, let's just do it in real time, unscripted. And I think that's it's a bit of a quirk I have, but it can mean that we're having a really open conversation with the community that we're involved with and enjoying. But I've just written 4 little notes from what you just said there, just so I wouldn't forget. I had mentioned that, a bit of a vision of mine, and I always do that. I have no vision. I have no supernatural. God told me there's no burden on my heart. There's no burden on my heart from a perspective of I will never say to people, look, God really told me to start Good News Fellowship, and this is where I don't want to use that as leverage in any way. I'm a normal, human, flawed individual with an idea, and maybe because of my music shop experience for 21 years, I've got a bit of a gift of bringing people together around common ground. The first thing you mentioned, yes. So when I say vision, it's not a prophetic vision.
That's a relief.
So, hopefully that's one box we can tick off there. I feel no special calling other than I literally enjoy hanging out with people, and I've discovered that people do polarize really quickly. And I discovered many years ago, luckily at the beginning of my music career, that people, if allowed to kind of gather together, will eventually polarize, or they will embrace echo chambers. And I don't like echo chambers. I like a variety of people gathering together. And so my point is that a variety of people gathering together so as not to fight and spin off into polarized, hate each other groups. My theory is that, well, let's gather on what we can agree upon and enjoy that. And then we might have a strong enough community that can also go, hey, I enjoy adding some other thoughts. Is that okay? Yeah, great. I love it. But when you've established a strong core, and I don't see this model very often in the world. And so I think we're onto something here, that if we can gather together before we polarize and before we become an echo chamber and find that common ground, and that's why my personal common ground statement is that we're gathering together around the teachings of Jesus from the 4 Gospels. That's the common ground. That's what I pretty much think everyone watching would agree. But if we tried to form some kind of belief system that went beyond that, that people had to sign up for, it would end in disaster. It would end in what you see all other churches and movements do. My calling is common ground, then use your own brain to analyze the data and draw your own conclusions. That's a big thing for me. So when we talked about hall, that is really interesting, because part of what I did with my music shop was to hire the community center down the road, which does hold maybe 100, 150 people. But I would run an open mic night every Monday night, and we would gather together week after week. We never had more than 10 people. So when I think of a hall, I just meant 10 people in the music shop was too much. 10 people in a lounge room is too much. This idea of maybe gathering together Good News Fellowship in outside of being online, if you can't fit in your lounge room, if you can't fit in the park, it's too windy, well, maybe you do hire a hall. But I imagined 6 to 10 people sitting in the corner in their chairs out of the rain, fitting in there. So for me, the word hall doesn't mean big and lots of people. It's not for the 21 years of having the shop and at least 15 years of running the open mic night. I never envisaged packing that venue out. It was always gathering around the idea of having a sing, playing your original music. That was the common ground. 2 songs, 2 mics, sing your original songs. So that hopefully helps.
No flags, no flyers,
No
no
flags.
bulletins, no offering collection.
And I have demonstrated that that has been how I run things for 15 to 20 years with the music shop. We never had signs up. We never advertised. It was word of mouth in the shop. Hey guys, open mic this Monday. You coming along? Yeah, be good. Here's the ground rules. Common ground. 2 mics, 2 songs, original music. And we would sit afterwards and chat, and people would just enjoy the connection again. Now, I mentioned, and I think you did there, about facilitating
Before you move on to that,
liability. Yeah.
before you move on to that bit, I just wanted to say that that's why we need to sit down and talk, because I hear hall and I think flags, flyers, and crazy things. But your life experience, a hall means a little group of 10 in the corner singing
Yes.
original music. So the stories, I just wanted to highlight that when there's time to do this, the stories we share are the important bits.
100%. Yeah.
So
Book club is on after this, everyone, at I think 2 p.m. New South Wales time and 7 p.m. Pacific time. And that is a great chance for the chatting and the stories. But we can do more, and I can improve on facilitating. We'll come to that word in a moment. Where by that's what's one of the things that frustrated me. When I chatted to people in the real world, we would sit and chat afterwards. When I have my meetings in Toronto, not Canada, in the cafe, we just chat afterwards. That's a component missing here that I want us all to talk about and work out. And I've got some suggestions, but that'll come a bit later.
Excuse me, Peter, before you get to the next one. This is only the 3rd time I've been up here doing any sort of a live video. So I decided this time I was going to try and watch the comments, and I see we have some sarcastic people watching. I see Carrie in the background here has said, but Danny, if there's no offering plate passed, how do you know you're meeting?
Hey, that's a good point. I'm going to write that down. Money is part of what I wanted to talk about today. So I've just written that down, Carrie. Very good. And by the way, Danny, the way you interpreted the hall notion is how 99% of people would have interpreted it. Of course people think that. That's why this conversation is important, because as people see where I'm coming from, they'll notice that certain terminology that I use will always be common ground, small group, friendships, sharing stories, breaking bread together. It's not aimed at being a big organized thing. And people who know me and watch this kind of content know that I'm not organized enough to even begin to do something like that.
That's a good point.
So, with regards to liability, when I hired the hall down there for my small group open mic night, that was a small thing I had to consider. So when I thought about this idea of small groups
Uh,
starting, I remember thinking, oh, it turned out in those days, I didn't have to worry about it. The community centre paid liability. I don't know what that is today. And in fact, part of me would go, I'd resist actually, upon talking about it and thinking about it, booking your local community centre or hall or whatever. I'd keep it at home or in a park. But, they're things we can chat about. And what I'm also trying to say is they are responsibilities for the person running the fellowship. But for me, it's always about small groups. I did also want to, someone raised a question with me this week, twice actually. And until they raised it, I had not even thought about it. And they said, are we associated with Good News Unlimited? And
oh,
I hadn't even thought of that because I'd always come from Now, like my group Now, to my group Voice, to SDAQ&A, all in the back of my mind thinking fellowship, but never including the word, to eventually starting Voice Life Fellowship. And then I wanted Voice Life Fellowship to be more about the gospel and the good news. I just put, Good News Fellowship. That was the process. And if you try and find Good News Fellowship, they're everywhere. It's not a unique idea or concept. So those watching who think this is not in association at all with Good News Unlimited, though I value their contribution to all the things they've done in the last 40 years, 45 years. So yeah, I just wanted to make that clear as well. And when you mentioned facilitator, I totally get how you would have thought conferences, meetings, teachings, because that's the real world. That's where
that's what I do.
yeah, you got to realize I haven't been part of the real world since 1993. I don't understand the jargon. I've just been this lone traveler playing music, going my own merry way, building up my own jargon, mainly being in bands, music bands and music groups, or traveling solo. So words that we have built up in that community totally mean totally different things for you guys. So for me, a facilitator is literally just pressing the button, turning on the lights, sending the link to the presenter, sitting back, listening, learning, sometimes asking some hopefully challenging questions. But in many ways, like the music shop, I owned the space that people could come to and enjoy the common ground. I've always realized that unless one person owns the space or calls people to gather together, things don't happen. I've also learned that when one person owns the space and calls people together, that they tend to form committees and they'll have a treasurer and a president and and it always falls to bits. So I've successfully called people together around the common ground in a space. Here we've got an online space. Out there, I've got 2 spaces that people gather. And then I don't have committees. I don't have the president and the treasurer and that. I just say, come along, enjoy the content. Yes, I have some expenses. So here's my QR code, or here's the little tin you can throw some cash in at the door. Buy a guitar, back in the day, yes, there are definitely expenses. But as soon as people try and run it with committees, as soon as they try and run it with money in mind, it always, always falls to bits. And every community group I've started has reached a certain level, but it has never fallen apart in disarray or fighting. It might just die out, but storms can rage. but always there's a common theme that holds people together, and a lot of it is fun. And I'm not sure if you wanted to ask questions about why I'm even thinking of taking it beyond here into the real world,
Well,
but
I had
that
an
might be.
assumption. I
Yeah.
had an assumption. I had an assumption about that. I didn't get around. Never even thought to ask that because I had my own answer to it. So I suppose I should ask you what your answer is.
Mm.
But before we do, my thought was simply when you said, so before my brain started interpreting words from the world I live in, my initial excitement when I heard you start talking about talking to Emma, and you said, "Oh, this would be a great resource for small groups. All these fabulous sermons." My first thought wasn't about a facilitator, as in, because it has different meaning to me. My
Yeah.
first thought was simply, wow, how cool if some random person who doesn't belong to a church and needs some sort of like community around them just went, this is too good to watch alone.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
And then my brain went crazy with questions.
Well,
So
what just
answer
on
the
that
other one.
point, just on that point, and it's a really good one, that's exactly what happened in my brain. I was thinking this. I'm loving. Like, I'll sit and listen to Frank Merendino or Emma. I won't even start listening. Carrie's watching. My mind is blown every time these guys come on. Um, I genuinely grow and learn and shift previous positions, and I think people need to hear this content.
Yeah.
But I then go back to that where in Matthew 18:20, where two or three are gathered in my name, there am I with them. And that idea, and there's another one in Mark 3:34 to 35. Then he looked at those seated in a circle around him and said, "Here are my mother." Sorry, I've written it wrong. Brothers and sisters, maybe. Whoever does God's will is my brother and sister and mother. Um, there's this notion of gathering together in circles, and circles are always small. You can't have the bigger the circle is, the harder it is to communicate. And so I I feel like we've got a really great resource here online. We have people chatting on the side. We've got spin-off groups, SDAQ&A, book club. We're going to build something that is more conversational based in relation to this online. That is going to happen. I've got some plans for that, but that's just a small extension of what we're already doing. But the content, I want people to discover it on the YouTube channel. One of the reasons I've set it up as its own YouTube channel is so people can discover it, explore it, enjoy it. But as I said, because I love cafe culture, I just get excited. Imagine if, just for example, you and me and Emma and Andy and Motor Sapien and everyone watching today just hung out at the local cafe and just chatted and talked and enjoyed the conversation. How good would that be? And that's what was the seed that made me think, let's take this. And I've got another thing to say after your thing
Yeah.
about that. Let's take this out there for other people to enjoy in small groups. Not a church, not a movement, small groups. Sorry, go ahead.
So that's okay. I just get excited too. So I just wanted to say I agree with you. More people need to hear these talks. When I listen to, and sorry if someone listening here has done a talk and it was fabulous and I forgot to mention your name. Sorry about that. But the easiest ones to remember are the ones,
The recent ones.
and the people that I've seen the most of. So I've probably seen more of Frank's than anyone else's because I came into watching them late. More people need to hear them. And so for everybody listening to this right now, and for everybody that will listen to this in the future, if you believe more people need to hear these, then I have a request for you to help more people hear the people and the messages they're presenting. I love the conversations in the private chat. Not the private chat, the live chat down the side. Okay, so, but the live chat down the side, it can't be accessed all at once, but someone watching it, if they know what button to push, and a lot of people can't find it, can listen to the live chat later. For people that want to use all these presentations as a small group, they want to say to 3 or 4 of their friends, come over, let's eat cake. I know you keep saying bread, but cake, bread, yeah. Let's have cake and hot chocolate
Food
and
and
watch this.
yeah, food and drink.
It'll be a lot easier for people to choose and find what they want to share out of past and present messages if there are comments under the video, not just in the live chat. So please, if you're watching it now or watching it later, if you can come back and comment after it's fully finished and loaded and put something in the chat
Yes.
under the video, that means that anybody that has 3 or 4 friends over and they want to access the video, they can see the comments there. So if you could just comment, this is what I enjoyed the most, this is what I learned. The people that are going to open up their homes and make a space for people to gather. I don't like the word facilitator. I'm avoiding it as much as possible.
Yeah.
The people doing
Space
that,
holder.
if they could just, the space holders, the people that want to open up the spaces and create it. If you could leave little messages that they can read later under the actual videos, it'd make life a lot easier for them.
Yeah.
And it will also help things. It'll help more people. It'll help anybody coming in then know.
Yeah, that's true. One of the things that was happening in a really positive way with SDAQ&A on the Facebook private group, which has over 3,000 members, is people could comment on the live shows, and they were there for years. Like in 5 years of doing it, you'd look back and there'd be people adding comments 3 years later. But Facebook, in whatever vision they had, they now remove all the previous live shows. So all those beautiful comments, thousands of comments are gone. That's why I've been moving everything to YouTube, because YouTube is more likely to, you can continue the conversation afterwards. We had, yes, I wanted to, on that note, I mentioned, and I possibly needed to clarify, the Voice Life Fellowship group seizing the concept, which is almost identical to this, but was more Adventist speaking about the gospel. And you can even go to the YouTube channel, scroll down, and you can see some of those there. I got word from some people that they were having home groups and watching the programs that we'd been posting. And that piqued my interest. But I was also aware, because you mentioned, why don't we get 2 or 3 of the groups, because there was one on the Gold Coast, there's one in Fiji, and there was one, I can't remember where it was. It didn't last long. But because the modality of their gathering is very Adventist still, I didn't want to replicate that and muddy the water. I want this to be a fresh start for Good News Fellowship. But by them organically starting little home groups, and look, maybe where we go is we just offer resources, and if people start a home group, call it whatever they want, they gather together and have a chat and watch it. I don't mind. I'm not trying to say let's. I have a desire to gather with other people that watch this. Like I'm going to go to Perth one day and say, Andy Mack, come and meet me for a coffee. I'm going to come to New Zealand and say, come on, Danny, let's have a coffee and just catch up. So part of my mind was going, wouldn't it be great just to go around and if there are people are Good News Fellowship people there in the town that watch this show, let's get together and hang out. So there's a part of me that likes to coordinate, hold space for these resources in the real world. But whether that happens organically, and this is the last we talk about it, and we just observe that it might be happening, or we do try and have a very minimally organized, group of people around the world that gather together and talk about it. Who knows what'll happen? Jane just said, "Come to Canberra." That has been on my list as well, Jane. So we'll come back to that later, because that's the where are we going side of things, and I'd like your thoughts on that. I did want to just address a couple of the one that Yeah, the one that you mentioned already. But Danny, if there's no offering plate passed, how do you know you're you're meeting? And I want to make that really clear. Like, one of the things about this program, yes, I do ask for people to send me some donations because it costs me time and money to put on the program and do the work. And I appreciate when people send me a few dollars here and there. It is not a big money spinner. I can assure anyone watching that it is just very humble. I managed to pay for Restream, and I've got StreamYard, and there's a few other Libsyn monthly expenses. Libsyn alone, to keep the SDA Q&A content up on the podcast, is $30-40 US a month. So just
Ooh.
little things like that. And you'll notice that when I have guests on the program, if they have something that they do, like they've got a book. Last week we had, who was on last week? Dr. Clinton Baldwin. I was more than happy to, at the end of the program, after his amazing presentation, say, everyone, go and check out his new university. So
Mm.
if people want to monetize things that they do, particularly if it's someone coming here and presenting on the show, I've got no problem with that. This notion of home groups, if anyone put the name Good News Fellowship to it, not with the big banners, um, I don't want any money passing hands. I don't want them sending me money. This is not a sales funnel. Oh, let's have lots of Good News Fellowships around the world that are sending me money. I want that clear. I don't want any money coming to me from those groups. I don't want anyone there collecting money, and I don't want anyone spending money to run the program. If someone said, "Hey, come over," so say, Danny, you invited 3 friends over on a Sunday afternoon to your lounge room. My vision is that they bring snacks, or if it's lunchtime, bring some food. You watch an episode, you have a chat about it. You don't ask for money. You don't ask for reimbursement. There is no exchange of money. I do not want money involved at all. I don't want people trying to build up a legacy that they leave behind. When I'm dead and gone, I hope 50 years after I'm gone, I'm forgotten. I have no desire to leave a legacy. I'm enjoying the here and the now. I'm enjoying the learning. I'm enjoying the flow, the process. I don't want to be remembered. I don't want to leave behind a legacy. So hopefully that helps clear up the money idea. And
And you've inspired Carrie to reply to you already. I don't want you to miss that reply since it's
I'll go
pertinent
and
now.
check on that as I get down to that one.
She said sarcasm's her love
Cindy,
language, and she knows offering plates weren't going to happen.
yes, I know. I knew that even within the sarcasm, Carrie. I love it. Cindy Lou writes, facilitating equals herding cats. Only if there's
Right.
committees involved. And listening ear writes, I've gotten healing from fellowshipping with this program. I've got a lot of questions answered. The people is real sincere in their life and humor. That's true. There is a lot of laughter here. I like that. Thank you, listening ear. And now Frank has joined us. I've got Frank on my list of things to talk about. And I see Frank Merendino as a little bit of our anchor of he's got an incredible way to contextualize the gospel to take us back to the beginning, minus all the lenses in between, minus the historical go back through all the denominations and the movements and the Augustines and the the Constantines and the whatevers, all the way back to the source. And I often will listen to a variety of presenters, all of whom I absolutely love. It's not even a thought of one's better than the other. There's never been a hierarchy in my mind. But I love the way Frank Merendino, we will all have these ideas that we share, and there'll be things we agree and disagree with. But there's a kind of a guys, let's come back to what our core focus is on the gospel. and then you can springboard again. I don't know if that makes sense, but Frank Mirandino is definitely a very special component to, I believe, the success of this program. So thank you for watching, Frank.
Peter, I just noticed that organically, without me even asking, you've already moved really from what we're doing to where we're going. So I was just highlighting that because I was looking at the time.
Yes, so let's push into where we're going more. We've definitely been skirting the edges of that, but what does it actually look like to do that?
Well, I don't know. I was thinking it doesn't look like much. It just looks like any person listening going, wow, this is too good to listen to alone.
I love that.
And I have some really strong beliefs about why small groups work. But now's not the time to cover those.
Why not? We've got some time.
Right.
We're not going live to book club for another 20 minutes. So
I was just thinking that, okay, so working as a counsellor, I spent my last, I remember when I moved into small groups. So this is groups of always under 10, no groups over 10. I remember when we moved into doing therapy with small groups instead of one-on-one. And it was nerve-wracking for quite a few years. But I cannot tell you. I'm going to try. I would pick a group. I would pick sharing in a group. I'm going to talk sharing in a group instead of group therapy because I don't want anyone leaving here saying Pete wants to start a good news therapy group because it's not that.
No,
Let's be really clear.
Or church.
These groups,
we need to be clear about that. This is not an organized thing we're talking about.
Not church, not therapy. But special things happen in a small group when a small group gets together.
Right.
Things that do not happen when you're on your own.
Yes.
Thoughts are sparked, ideas are shared. People can ask questions and create thoughts that you never ever thought you would have. But something deeper than that happens. It's about connection. We all need connections. So if you, right in the very beginning, the first thing we see God doing in the beginning of the Bible is creating. And one day I'll do a talk on the creative aspect. The next thing we see him talking about is it's not good for you to be alone. And then he says, I'm making you in my image. So we know a lot about the relational nature of God. The whole Bible's about the relational nature of God. And you've talked about a whole pile of those things. The classic, most common one, of course, is the verse about a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you. And so special things happens in small groups. So if you go out of the religious, what's technically the religious thing, into the psychology realm for a second, it's been known for a long time that people need a witness to their life. People need to be seen. The greatest plague, really, on an emotional problem in the world is loneliness. What happens? So there's different levels of communication. The base and most common, lightest level is the discussion that says, how's the weather? You know how that goes. We're going to skip all the ones in the middle and go to the two deeper levels. The two deeper levels of communication, the second deepest and the deepest, they call it, for ease, the second deepest, they call news reporting, okay? News reporting is where you can say, I felt this yesterday. Last week when I watched Clinton's show, this is how I felt. Last month when I watched Frank's. Back in February, I watched a good news program and I had this amazing light bulb moment and I share how I felt. The absolute deepest level is when you can say, I feel this now. The most vulnerable you can be with someone is when you can say, I feel this right now. And someone gets to enter into your world in this exact moment. That doesn't happen in big groups.
No, exactly.
We're not hardwired to have that many people and that many close connections. It only happens in small groups. The magic of these, of a small group, the magic of becoming a home group coordinator, shall we call them, in your own house, is that magic happens when someone can say, this is how I feel. And loneliness vanishes in the moment that someone else goes, me too.
Yes.
There is nothing more magical. And I'm
it.
sure everyone listening here, if you're thinking, oh no, I couldn't have 3 or 4 people over to my place to watch it, just think. Just stop and think of all the times in your life where you've been surprised and all of a sudden you didn't feel odd, alone, or like you were the only one because someone said, me too. These are
Yeah.
the things that can happen if you just gather in little groups.
Yeah. Yes. I love it.
It's life-changing. When I started my counselling training, they said people fresh out of counselling training often do better than people that have been working in the field for years and years and years. And the reason why was astounding. They said because when you're fresh out, you're excited about the people you're talking to. Most people don't need to talk to someone that's incredibly wise with 20 years of counselling. They said all most people need is someone to say, I have energy for you. I believe in you. I'm here. And that's what you can do in a small group that you can't do in a large one. So I just started to get really excited when you talked about this, because it's more than just the gospel changing lives. All these other connections happen
100%.
organically.
Yeah, 100%. And I hope that you're still excited about that, because this is about small groups. The next
Absolutely.
component that we're trying to do online and in the real world is make those connections more available. Frank Merendino writes that you've just said the exact word, connection. We all need it. And what we're doing here online with Good News Fellowship, and hopefully in the real world, is creating connection with small groups.
Mm.
Um,
You mentioned a word there that I was gonna wait till the end, but I'm just gonna say it now. Okay. You said need. You said we all need this. Okay. And you talked about the need for this, and I'm just going to clarify the need for this. Okay. So probably one of the most famous chapters in the Bible, as opposed to a single verse, would be 1 Corinthians 13. Okay, which is the huge chapter on love. Most people know, even non-Christians know about 1 Corinthians 13 and the chapter on love, because it's preached at weddings and all sorts of things. What people don't stop and look at and consider is that the Bible wasn't originally written with all these nice chapters and verses. And so if you look at what comes before that, what sets the groundwork for this great chapter on love is 1 Corinthians 12, which is, people quote it for the spiritual gifts aspect, but they miss the real beauty of 1 Corinthians 12. And what I think the most important verse in the whole of that chapter isn't the thing that says, oh, you get this gift and you give that gift and we gather together and you know, you get one each, blah, blah, blah. I reckon this is the most important one. 1 Corinthians 12:21. Listen to this. The eye cannot say to the hand, I do not need you. And the head cannot say to the feet, I do not need you. And so it just fascinated me that Paul, before he gives his great chapter on love, says the body needs all the different parts. We all need each other to function together. And our bodies aren't made up of, well, there's quite a few parts, yes. And then he clearly says, really, really clearly, you can't say I don't need you. And there's two sides to that. It means that not only do I need you, but he's saying that we all need to be needed.
yes.
And these things only happen in small groups.
Yeah.
And so I just see huge potential. I can't see how it could be any easier. I don't understand how anything could be easier than your idea, which is say to your mates, hey, bring a snack, come listen to what this person's got to say, and let's have a little chat about whether we agree, whether we don't agree, what it means to us, and if it might make a change in our life afterwards. And while we're here, maybe I can tell you how my week was. And
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
so, yeah.
It's not rocket science. Yeah, look, thank you, Danny. I really appreciate that. talking about conversations and connections. Rochelle Anonymous is hosting our book club. I've posted the link already in the comments and the chat. Go now. It'll kick off in about 15-20 minutes for conversation and connection. I wanted to just address that one more thing. I've talked about, maybe the small groups, and let's just leave it hanging with that organic. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. All it is someone literally, like Danny, if tomorrow you rang a friend and say, hey, look, come and watch this great Frank Merendino program with me and we'll have a coffee. That has brought into reality my dream. It doesn't have to be called Good News Fellowship. It doesn't have to be big. It can be, as we started off, where 2 or 3 are gathered. And in fact, one of the things that in some ways began the end of my music career just prior to lockdown, which kind of really shifted my whole focus, was the access to Facebook, where I could write a comment, post a video, and a small group would respond. Hey, enjoyed the song, or what about that? What was those lyrics? And I could comment and engage, and I got more from that interaction of, say, 20 people or so than traveling 2 hours to a gig, putting on a concert, traveling 2 hours home. I thought, I'm getting as much from this connection as doing a big gig. So I like to bring things back from the big to the small. And when I mentioned let's gather together once a year, all these groups, I'm not meaning in a sense of let's make this a big gathering. I'm meaning, wouldn't it be fun to meet Moto Sapien, to meet Carrie, to meet in the flesh Jane and Frank, and we all say let's gather together in Fiji. And some of us might share some ideas, but we're just going to hang out at the pool, go for a swim. Small groups will bunch off from that. Never is my intention that some kind of annual gathering is anything more than friends catching up in the real world, because we like to see each other face to face. And the same with, I think I mentioned having a quarterly gathering, which all of a sudden sounds organized. I'm just simply meaning at random, I call up Jane and I say, hey, I'm passing through Canberra, which I am actually this coming week. I'm passing through Canberra. You want to catch up? And this literally happened in Canberra, Jane, a few months ago. Some people that were watching SDAQ&A heard that I was coming into Canberra and said, can we catch up and talk about your program? And we had about 8 people gather into this amazing cafe on this beautiful green, the English would call it. And we had the best of discussions, and some of it was on the program and some of it was just catching up. So again, that, just to reiterate, none of what I'm saying is church, big, organization, money, structure. It's all small groups of people who, like each other, gather around common ground. And in this case, the common ground is the teachings of Jesus found in the 4 Gospels. And yes, that extrapolates further, but that's the gathering. That's the starting point at the watering hole.
I just want to address one question just that Moto asked. And it's just to go back to what I was talking about before about connection. And he says, Danny, would you equate that to validation? And I just wanted to say that validation for me harks back to the whole church words, the whole organized religion. The word validation always reminds me of right or wrong. Most people don't need validation. They don't need to be told, oh, yeah, you're right.
No.
Most
the need
people want to be
component of connection.
understood.
Yeah. The need component of connection is not validation.
It's understanding. It's, I see you. I see you, warts and all, and I like you.
I see you, I hear you, and you're accepted. Yeah. As you are. You are valued. I love that. Boy, what a good conversation this has been. I really appreciate it, Danny. Like, just wow. Thank you.
When you were talking about that chat you had with those people, 8 of you in Canberra at the cafe, I'm thinking, Oh, I want me a bit of that.
Yes, I know. And that was heaven to me. Like, I that was just it was so good to see them.
Well,
Jane just writes, "I'm so glad for this group, as it has allowed me to find friends and open up about the dark nights of the soul. Genuinely life-saving." Frank adds, "I'll be in Romania with my family next summer. Care to meet us?" See, that's the kind of thing that could work. Um, Motorcycle Peter, I'm actually bummed that I missed when you were in Southern California. I wouldn't let that opportunity slip by again. Yeah,
oh,
that
oh,
would have been great. Malcolm Clark and I caught up, and I didn't realize that he lived several hours north of there, and he drove down just so he and I could jam together. And what a friendship, he and I have forged. And Motor Sapien, even though I feel we've forged a friendship too, and we've discussed and gone through some robust topics and disagree on some and agree on others. But how fantastic that even online we've forged a friendship. And really, that's what it's all about. Um, I'm going to let you have the last word, Danny, and then I will just recite one important Bible text that means a lot to me, just to finish.
all of us have come from somewhere. We've all come from somewhere, and I appreciate everything you've covered, Peter, because in the back of my mind too, I keep thinking, and I know it's something I need to be careful of for myself. I look at people from other countries when they move into New Zealand, say, and they leave their country because they want something different to what they had. And then when they get here, they miss their culture. So they recreate their culture in the new place. And they often recreate the exact thing that they left behind. And when I hear you talking about all of this, I really appreciate, and I wanted to say, I really appreciate that you keep saying, let's come back to the Gospels, let's come back to the Bible, let's just come back to the 4 Gospels. Let's keep it really simple, because I think that is the biggest risk of all, is being human, is that we'll leave where we were and we'll recreate what we had in a new place. And when you were talking about echo chambers and polarizations, I was thinking there's a third option in there. I never had a chance to add it. And I appreciate how hard you work to not let any of those things occur. And Jesus was clear. He just said, "A new commandment I give you, that you love one another." You can't love people you don't know. You can't love people you're not connected to. And you're not connected to people you don't talk to. It's so easy to keep everything online these days. It's great to have online conversations, but the ones I live for are the people that I've stopped and had video chats with. The other day, Carrie said, instead of typing messages out, shall we video chat? And I won't even confess to how many hours we talked to for. But,
Yeah.
I think your idea is great now that we've answered all my questions.
Thank you. And I am excited to soon be announcing how we're going to be able to keep the conversation going after we've had a Good News Fellowship, where it just turns into a conversation that's not live. So get ready. That's coming soon.
Oh, one last question. Can you move the old Good News Fellowships off the SDAQ&A page and add them to here? Because my favorite ones are over there, some of them, and they're really hard to find.
Now they are already being deleted by Facebook, unfortunately, but I've saved all the files. So I am in the process of going to it takes a couple of hours each show, but I'm in the process of now bringing them up into this YouTube channel.
Okay.
And so people, if you're watching the YouTube channel, there's a live button where you can access all of these, but there's a videos button where those will all be going. And so you will be able to go back to number 1 and work your way through to all of right up to 58 now. But that is
Excellent.
going to take a little bit of a chunk of time. If there is anyone watching and, hears me saying, let's not make money of the thing at all, it's not. But we're looking at probably me uploading maybe 30 or 40 videos. So there's a good 60 hours worth of time. If anyone wants to send a couple of dollars my way, there's the PayPal below. But that's just to help the nuts and bolts of it, because like you say, my dream is that people can access all of these resources, because they will see a journey that we've been on as well in listening to them. And I very much see the moving forward is the only lens we look through is straight to the source, straight to the Bible. One thing I've noted, just to close, and just a reminder, book club is accessible right now. Go and click in the link. Rochelle has also posted it into a couple of groups. It's going to be a big one today. Join. I can't stay because I have some music I have to race off to, but I will be there for 5 minutes.
Peter, did you see that comment? Someone here said they can give you a hand with uploading stuff. They didn't volunteer money, but they volunteered time. Time's money.
Yes. That the hard thing is, and people have offered this, Rick has offered, and thank you, Brian, appreciate that. The hard thing is I do edits, and no one else knows in my mind where I want the edits to be. And so when I hand it out, there's just things that I have to oversee again. So it's just I'm happy to put the time in. I get to watch the stuff again. It edifies me even more. I enjoy it. I've got no problem. I literally have the time set aside each week where I do editing and things. So I do really appreciate that. And Brian and I are going to catch up and talk about some other stuff as well, with regards to Wi-Fi. Thank you, Brian. We will have lunch and a lovely cafe catch up soon. He lives
And I just have
up the road.
I have
Yeah.
one request. Everybody has different gifts. For those people that like to pray, it's not top of my list of favorite things to do. I'm not one of these people that have big long prayer lists and stuff, but I have friends that do, and their prayers bring about results, or they change lives. That's their thing with God. So if anyone listening that has that thing, I'd just like to suggest that just that you pray that the people that need to, or the ones that will hear and will be brave enough to put their hand up and go, I know this is really scary. I don't know if I want my friends knowing I listen to this Good News Fellowship, but
Yeah.
but give it a go.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah, any gifts or talents that people want to have and share and contribute, are all welcomed. So yeah, thank you. That's great. And to be honest, I would say I'm a doubting Thomas. I don't make belief claims. My faith is very simple, in some ways tenuous, but I can grasp onto the anchor of the teachings of Jesus from the four Gospels. And then I embrace all this new stuff I'm learning, and I feel that I'm being rejuvenated and I'm growing, and I'm not the guy to be the presenter. I think I have presented once or twice, and I'd like to learn how to be, but I'm not there yet, and that's okay.
You don't need to be there. That's the whole principle of
Exactly.
Corinthians 12. You do your bit.
We're all doing
give us
our
the
bits.
space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I'm very happy for it to unfold organically. And, we can chat again down the track about what it looks like to run a Good News Fellowship in your lounge room, or we might not. We're just going to let that unfold naturally. But one thing I've noticed about this community that is almost palpable is there is a loving spirit that flows between people. And there's been people that I see here in the comments that I have disagreed with, and it could have gone the other way. But because we gather on the common ground, because we're looking for the good news of the gospel, something happens. Something changes within us, and a loving spirit comes out. I don't know if that's the right word, a loving spirit, but a sense of love and sacred love and a feeling of compassion and care for others. And I want to close with this, the John 13:34-35. A new command I give you, love one another. And I see that in this group. As I have loved you, and as we look at the gospel, the good news, we feel that love coming from Jesus. And by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. And I remember Frank one day, highlighting this, that it's not by what we do and the laws we keep and the great contributions we make to society that people note and see Jesus' love. It's the love for one another that demonstrates the Jesus that, people can then connect with. So to me, that's the clearest community marker. Love becomes the identity of Jesus' followers. Well, yeah, we will leave it there. Head on over right now, everybody. We're going to get that book club started, and hope you can join us. Thank you again, Danny, so much. I look forward to more of these conversations. Now, I do have to throw a mild spanner in the works while Carrie is here and you are here. I will actually be away next Friday, and we may have to not have a program. And can we bump Carrie to the week after? We're just having some admin discussion in real time in front of everybody.
Absolutely.
If that's okay. And yeah, but we can talk about that.
I'll sort it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will look forward to seeing you all in book club in a few minutes. And not next week. I will be away next week. There won't be any programs for me next week. I will be traveling to Melbourne. I've tried to do the show on the side of the road, and it's good. It's fun, but it's just a bit awkward. So it's better just to leave it out. And we'll see you all the following week.
There's plenty of back episodes to watch.
I know, exactly. I encourage everyone, maybe you guys can organise amongst yourselves a Zoom catch-up at the same time next week and share the screen, one of the previous programs, and just all watch it together on Zoom. There we go, Danny. There's a challenge for you, because we've got various groups that you can promote that in. That'd be a fun idea. Because I think the weekly gathering is important. So let's maybe talk about that. You just have to go live on Zoom and just drag in from YouTube one of the shows and share it on the screen and all watch it. There's an idea. We will see you all when we see you. Farewell and thank you very much.